Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 247 DIY. We've got the 2012 Forester back up here on the lift, and in a previous episode we went ahead and we installed these factory mufflers off of a 2016 WRX. From what I had saw on the internet, basically all of these dual mufflers from the WRX models that had the dual exit exhaust should fit up no problem. They do fit, but they didn't fit perfect, and we had an issue where one of the stock exhaust hangers, due to rust, snapped off. So they're just kind of up there with some straps and stuff, and I'll show you a close-up of how we remedied that temporarily. But now that I've got the welder and I've had some time to practice with the welder, it's time to go ahead and do this repair right, which is going to involve repairing the broken exhaust hanger, getting that back so we can utilize the stock exhaust hangers, and then we do need to modify the exhaust hangers on these stock mufflers, only because from the research I had done, they were supposed to fit, but the top exhaust hangers stick up too far and they actually basically touch the underside of the car. So we're gonna have to shorten those exhaust hangers to get this all to fit right. So let's go ahead, roll the intro so that we can go ahead and get to work. All right, so for the first part of this project, we are going to go ahead and have to remove these mufflers and get those pulled down. But before we go ahead and do that, if you didn't see the previous video, I'll just show you sort of what I ended up having to do. You can see I cut up an exhaust hanger just to put a bushing on there and then use some hose clamps to go right up and around that bracket there that holds your heat shields on, which I live here in upstate New York, so those rusted out and fell off a long time ago. So it was just a good place to utilize because there should be an exhaust hanger right up in there. This side still has it. It's not being utilized. I kind of wanted the tension on these mufflers to be the same, so I did the same method on this side. And this is the piece here that fell off. Looking at it now, you can actually kind of see that they don't actually weld like the hanger itself to the body. Looking through the rust, there's like a steel strap that gets welded to the body kind of around the piece of metal. Seems like a weird way to do it to me. I don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and get this fixed. And then like I said, we do have to make some modifications to the muffler. You can see now that that upper exhaust hanger is pushing the rubber bushing. It's basically pressed right up against the body, and that's really not how they're designed to work. That should be down. Basically with the positioning of these, there will be like a little bit of an angle, but the rubber hangers there to control both. You know, you don't want your mufflers to hang down, but they also control and make sure when you're going over bumps that it's not going to raise up. And so in that position, it's just really not doing its job. And then that also means that they just sort of, because it's a dual muffler, they sort of fight each other. It doesn't want to just hang there nicely. And then the biggest reason why I'm tackling this project is I've been getting a vibration rattle from the rear end. It's really hard to isolate. It only seems to come through with certain vehicle RPM and things like that. I've been underneath this vehicle banging on things with my hand, moving things by hand. I can't replicate that rattle unless I'm in the driver's seat driving, and it's really hard to tell where it's coming from. It's very obvious it's the rear end, and I'm pretty positive with the way I have this muffler set up right now that it's coming from the mufflers. Honestly, outside of that, I have no idea where this rattle's coming from. I've checked absolutely everything. So at the very least, I'll know after today's project that we've got them hung up there properly, and I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that we get rid of that annoying rattle from the rear end. So the first thing I want to do is put a hanger back here where the stock one was. Now originally I just kept the stock one, and my plan was I was just going to weld it in because right now, based on where it broke off of, it fits right in there, basically like a puzzle piece. But then obviously, you know, the more, because I am self-teaching myself, I don't have any, you know, practical training on how to weld. I'm just teaching myself how to weld. This is so rusty that you're not gonna be able to weld it. So I am gonna have to come up in here. We're gonna have to clean all this up, get all this scaly rust out of here, that little bit of like I was talking about, that bracket that sort of bends around this, get that all off there. We'll clean this all off, and then I need to clean a spot up on the frame rail here so that I can connect my ground for the welder. All right, so I went ahead and got this area cleaned up here. We cleaned up the original hanger. Now I realized it probably would make more sense just to get some new steel and weld that up there. But like I said, I'm teaching myself how to weld, and honestly, a lot of times I think that learning what doesn't work sometimes is a lot more helpful than what does work. So I want to try this. In theory, I don't see how it should be a problem. We've cleaned up the part we're going to be welding. This area up here, I would have liked to have gotten a little bit larger of an area cleaned up, but it's hard. Even between my angle grinder with a flap disc and my air tool with a cleaning pad on it, it's just hard to get up in there with the right angles to clean it up. But I believe I've got enough clean metal there to get a somewhat good weld going down. I'm not trying to put down, you know, absolutely perfect welds. This is just needs to be functional welds that will hold this hanger up there for me. And then the other thing I did is I cleaned up this spot on the frame rail here, which essentially is the same metal we're welding here to get the hanger welded back up in place. And this is the part where I do get a little bit nervous because you do have to take precautions when welding on a vehicle. There's a lot of electric components on a vehicle that you don't want to fry. I did a lot of research and it seems to vary. I found some stuff that went so far as to say disconnect, remove the battery, and then go throughout the vehicle and remove every single computer and electrical component before you weld on the vehicle. But the overwhelming consensus seems to be disconnect both the positive and the negative on the battery, which I've already gone ahead and done, and then just make sure that your grounding strap for your welder is on clean metal and as close to the area you're going to be welding as possible. And being that I don't have really a good spot to clamp my ground clamp to, I picked one of these up on Amazon. It's a magnet with a post for your grounding clamp. So you just make sure you have clean metal, and we can take our magnet, and that keeps your grounding position attached and pressed right up against that clean metal. Our grounding clamp will clamp right here, and then that will be our ground for welding this on. So let's go ahead and see how ugly a welds I can't throw on here. It's going to be from the underside. Getting the bottom portion of this welded on is going to be easy, but you can see that trying to get up here over the top, especially with the spare tire hump here, I'm not even sure how possible it's going to be to get the MIG torch up in there. But even if I put a pretty garbage weld on top there, as long as I put a nice weld underneath, I think it should be good. And then obviously we will hit this spot as well as the spot that we uncovered to get a good clean ground here with some paint, because we don't want that to start to really rust out any more so than the bottom of the cart is already rusted. But I will cover that in some paint just to stop it from getting really out of hand. But yeah, let's go ahead and play around and see what I can't either accomplish or mess up here. All right, so we got that finished up and welded in there. It is far from pretty. It was actually kind of an awkward spot. I haven't practiced welding overhead like that yet. It was pretty hard to get like a good comfortable position, and then when I started, I didn't have enough light up in here, so it was kind of hard to see where I was welding. Looking through the camera right now, it doesn't look as strong as it does if you actually look at it with your naked eye. Like I said, it is absolutely far from pretty, but it's strong. Grabbed onto it basically with all my weight and yanked down, and I mean, it's on there. So functionality wise, I'm confident that it's going to be perfectly fine. It just doesn't look very good. And then before I went ahead and moved on, I did come over here, and this side was basically about ready to fall off. So we just repeated the exact same process on this side. I'm a little happier with the weld on this side, just in terms of how it looks. I ran it a little cold on that side because I didn't really know the exact thickness of this frame rail. And I didn't want to burn through, and I did actually burn through in a small spot. It was very small, so I was able just to do a second pass and fill it. back up where I burnt through. So even though that side to me looks a little cold, I did burn through on this side. So, but it's up there. Again, like I said, it's strong. It's not going anywhere. They're just definitely not Instagram worthy welds, but they're going to serve their purpose. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to get those mufflers up in there, and we're going to go ahead and actually bolt them into place. We're going to put the front hangers on, these ones here, and we're not going to worry right now about the rear hangers, because what my plan is, like I said, these rear hangers, they just locate up too high towards the underside of the vehicle once they're mounted up in there. So in theory, at least it's going to make sense. It's been making sense in my head while I've been planning this project out, is I'm going to cut these hangers about here, take this piece, slide it into the hanger up in the car, mock our mufflers up, and then essentially these should overlap. I'm hoping to get, considering the height of the rubber exhaust hanger, and then how close this is to the body, I'm hoping to get like at least an inch of overlap. And then once they're up in the car, hopefully I have enough room to get the torch up in there where I can just tack them, basically just tack these together and then slide them out of the hangers, bring them over to the bench, and then just finish weld out both sides where I'm just gonna overlap them right up. Again, it's probably not gonna be super pretty, but it's gonna be functional. So that's the plan. Cut, throw these in the car, throw the mufflers up, overlap these to a height I'm happy with the hanger, weld it together. All right, so I got the mufflers mounted up. As I had said before, the information that I had found as far as converting these SH Foresters to the WRX exhaust, people were saying they were using like 2010, 2011, but most of the posts had said 2010 and up. WRXs with dual exit mufflers would work. Now, like I said, these are off of 2016. No one in the posts that I had found on like the Forester forums and like Naziok had mentioned using anything that new. The alignment here is not great, and if you're going to do this on your SH Forester, probably go with a 10 or an 11 WRX exhaust. Like I said, there's plenty of people that have verified that that does in fact work. But when I got these mounted up with those back hangers cut, they were actually pressed. The mufflers themselves pressed up in the bumper, and then this one sits super close to the frame rail. It doesn't really do it on this side, but it sits very, very close to the frame rail on this side. But everything was pressed up against the car. So I disconnected the center exhaust hanger that's right about in there. That one didn't do anything. They were still pressed right up against the car. So I bought these a little while ago for this project. I got these out to support the exhaust, and then I slipped it out of the front hangers. And you can actually see there that we're going to have to lengthen these hangers because we got the rubber hanger here, and the camera doesn't really want to focus. They're at least a half an inch away from the outside edge of that hanger. That's going to put them about a full inch from that hole. So we're going to have to cut. I do have some material that I can use to add length and either create a whole new hanger or just weld in a spacer piece, which I think will be easier. But yeah, we're going to have to go ahead. I'm going to start by putting like a pretty decent tack up in here on the back ones. You can see I've got them basically positioned. We're just going to tack them together like they are, like that. It puts the hanger at a little bit of an angle, but essentially it's up and down. It's going to function, and it's going to absorb both the downward pull from the mufflers as well as going over bumps. It's going to stop it from lifting up too far. All right, so quick little progress update. I decided to go ahead and, at least for this portion, use all new steel. It's just mild steel. It's a little bit thin compared to the size hole in the hanger and the size rod for the original hangers on these. But it's what I had available local to me, and it's not too far off. So I bent those up in the vise to bend down and then wrap onto there. They are just tack welded on for now, so we're going to pull the mufflers down hopefully for the last time, because these are pretty tedious to get up in there. Bring them over to my table. We'll get them welded up fully, and then we can throw them in. All right, so we went ahead and got the mufflers all welded up here. Did a pretty decent job. The welds come out a lot better when it's over here on the table and you can kind of brace yourself and get a good controlled weld in there. Everything welded up really nicely. Obviously, the muffler and the original hangers are stainless steel, and we just used regular MIG welding here, MIG wire. So I'm just going to come through and we'll spray the welds, because when you MIG weld stainless steel, it takes away the obviously the anti-corrosion, anti-rust properties of the stainless on your weld and the surrounding metal around the weld. But yeah, everything's looking good. Everything welded up real nice on both sides. This one, they're pretty symmetrical the way I made them, but this one was actually so close to the lip of the muffler here that I bridged across just a little tack there. I didn't want it to be, it was almost so close where I thought maybe it might vibrate and touch the edge of it, and we're trying to eliminate noise with this project. So I figured better play it more safe than sorry and just go ahead and throw that tack on that other one. And then we got this weld here. Yeah, everything's looking real good with that, and I'm happy with these welds. Like I said, we're going to throw some paint on those just so that they don't rust out, and those spots on the car, we need to go ahead and throw some paint on those, and we can go ahead and do a final install on the mufflers. And then, of course, I have to go ahead and clean up the shop. This was another one of those projects that I thought was going to be relatively quick. Come out here, get those hangers cut up, welded, and thrown on. But it became a little bit bigger of a project than I thought, and I have just about every tool in the shop out here. So, like I said, I got to clean up, put this on the ground, connect the battery, drive it for a little while to verify that vibration's gone. And hopefully we had a successful fix to getting these 2016 WRX mufflers mounted up to my 2012 Forester. So as always, guys, if you like the video, be sure to leave a comment below. Feel free to hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Thanks.